I just want to make one more point because I do want to move us along, but I see that there's a question or a direct question about uh, that says, what would you say to non-Black progressive leaders who insist that supporting a Black woman candidate should be everyone's priority? And this is, I'm going to say this is why this is so hard for me, honestly, because, you know, I support Black women, and but at the same, but overall, I support Black people and what's best for the Black community. And and I'm really looking at what are the policies that we need to be focusing on that's going to move us there and quickly. You know, I have this sense of urgency. I mean, I've had it for, I mean, already, but this next decade is going to be huge for us. Just in terms of what we're facing with climate change, I just feel like that's always over my head at this point. And so we have a lot of work to do if we're going to have a chance to survive as humanity, and to do so without divulging into just complete violence. And so for me, it's about what do we need to do to move quickly, and how do we make sure that things line up in the time that we have. And so that's for me what is leading this is that I believe representation, racial representation, economic representation, all these different things are so important. Ideological representation is also important, and having folks in places that are bringing different values into spaces, I think, is important as well. And so this is a case where, you know, where I just where even though Eli is a white man, and I also look at other people who are supporting him in the community, and recognizing how much support he has from the Black community. And it's partially because he's been in the community before he was running, right? And so people know him. And so people trust him just as a person who's a servant in the community. And that matters. I think that matters, right? And so for me, that kind of goes above and beyond just pure representation. And thankfully, you know, across some of these different races, we do have some good representation, or some good options for some racial representation in different ways. So I don't think this is going to stop that train overall.
I just wanted to make sure I could put it on my, because I wanted to make sure I read the question. What would you say to non-Black progressive leaders who insist that supporting a Black woman candidate should be everyone's priority? Respectfully, I'd say be quiet. You know, I think that everyone's priority should be, you know, vote who do you think best represents your interests. And the issue of race and the prosecutors, when you're going to look at it, I wouldn't look at I'd look who's most affected by what goes on in that office. You know, Ariana Slay's a prosecutor, a person of color, that's a prosecutor, but the people that go through that office, the most vulnerable in our community that don't have representation, that get targeted and disproportionately go through that system, they get financially burdened by an exploitive system. Substance use disorder is not really addressed as a health issue. Juveniles are treated as adults, and their families are financially burdened and severely impacted. Mental health consumers, we don't have a real mental health court. It's not for felonies when those big issues come up. You know, so I think it's there's a bit of that soft bigotry of low expectations. You know, just picking someone for the color of their skin and saying that's enough as far as representation in these serious issues. You have to look at a person's policies and platform and not just the color of their skin and say, we need to support these. Ariana Slade's not Clarence Thomas, but he was Black, and look what he's done. You know, that's ridiculous. It's
like with everything we're talking about stuff. It's like in the 90s, it was just like get different faces in spaces, right? But, you know, we're far past that.